and welcome to the Generation Logistics podcast. In this episode, we're going to be speaking about the different routes into logistics, the qualifications you can obtain, and which route is best for each individual. My name is Hope Ellen, and I'm joined by three wonderful guests to discuss the topic in more detail. If we can begin by hearing your name and the role you're currently doing, starting with you.
Hi, my name is Callum. I'm currently a site manager for GXO Logistics over in Thurrock.
Fantastic.
Hi, my name is Eleanor. I work for Amazon as a operations manager in the Nottingham area.
Hello, Eleanor. And last but not least.
And I'm Donald, and I work for Hoyer Gas and Petroleum Logistics as a contract manager.
Fantastic. So let's dive straight in the deep end and talk about the routes that you took, starting with you, Donald.
I came into logistics in 2004. I joined Hoyer as a graduate on their management development program. But I was 34 at the time, and so I'd left school, I'd done some other jobs, been in the army, then went to college and university. And so given my age, I was keen to try and accelerate through things. And so I was gladly accepted on Hoyer's graduate management program.
And being 34 and slightly more mature than maybe some other people going into that role, how did you feel?
It did feel quite daunting at first. And I was looking around at different sort of sectors to go into because I was trying to fit. I was trying to see where I would be more suited to be. And when looking at the logistics side of things and the starting point for me, which would be driver facing, and the types of skills that would be required, I felt that I really fitted into that. I'm pretty good at getting on with people, actually. And I could see that a lot of companies were looking for people that had that ability. And so that's why I pursued it in that way.
It's really refreshing to hear that you can have multiple careers within your life, can't you? And at 34, that's when you found something that you really wanted to stick with.
Yes, it took a bit of time. I suppose having left school with no qualifications, becoming a graduate was quite a big deal. But it helps to give you confidence as well in terms of trying to pursue something more, actually. And I've been very lucky, although a lot of it is hard work, to be able to progress within the industry as well. And when I'm recruiting, I sort of think back to what I could offer. And I am very keen to look at people that are coming in through, I suppose, the non-conventional routes, actually, because I think they bring a massive skill set with them. Especially within the logistics sector of driver-facing positions, because the ability to get on with people is going to be the difference whether a job's going to be done well or not.
So would you say the route that you took actually has made you more open-minded for the role that you're currently doing?
I would say so, yes, because it can be quite easy to think that you need a specific person or a specific skill set to be able to do a job. But having been in the industry now for nearly 2 decades, there is so much that we can train somebody to do. But you can't train attitude and items like that. I suppose they call it soft skills. You can't train that, and so a lot of the recruitment that I've been doing over the last few years, I look at what we can train somebody to do. I look at the types of skills and experience that they already have. The big thing I'm looking at, are they going to fit well within our culture? Are they going to positively engage with our people? And are they going to look after their people? That's the big thing I'm looking at, because everything else we can train them to do.
And what is that culture?
It's looking after your people. It's valuing that everyone has something to give. Everyone has a job to do. It's really important with leaders within the industry to create the type of environment where people feel valued and they can flourish. And whether a company is successful or not, it's down to all of its people, actually. And so it's really important to create the environment where people can actually thrive. I was very lucky to join a company that works in that way. I'm very proud that I'm able to continue that, actually. And through that way of thinking, a lot of people have come into the industry that that may not have been given that opportunity in the first place because they don't fit a certain mould.
Eleanor, tell me your story, your route into logistics.
Yes, so my route, so I graduated in 2018 from the University of Nottingham. Really enjoyed my time there and did something completely different to logistics. So I actually studied psychology and cognitive neuroscience.
Wow.
So nothing to do with logistics at all. From there, I went on to a graduate programme with a retailer at the time. I was there for about 3 years, enjoyed the opportunity, enjoyed the experience. I was then looking for other opportunities, came across Amazon, came across logistics. So I sort of kind of fell into it rather than choosing to go into it. But I made that decision about nearly 2 years ago now, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So for me, I think the biggest driver for me coming into the role that I came into was the management side of things. So from my degree, I learned a lot about people, why people do what they do. And for me, I find that very useful in terms of going into management. So from the logistics side of things, I don't think it needs to be something you always aim to go into. If you've got that background, got that understanding, you can then decide, this is for me. And making that decision has been the best decision that I've made. I've really enjoyed the team that I work with and enjoyed getting to see so many different people develop and grow. Even though my way of coming in was through the graduate scheme, I think a lot of other people I've seen have come through with apprenticeships and completely different routes. So I don't think there's one that's right over the other, and you don't have to come from a logistics background. You can come from whatever background you want, and you might just find it's for you.
So with that in mind then, the graduate scheme, you can have any degree.
Any degree, doesn't matter what degree you have. And I think that's one of the most interesting parts. They're looking for finding people who have that ambition, have that drive, want to understand a new area of business. You don't have to have business management, have logistics, have supply chain background. I think it probably would help if you have that. But I've shown through myself that I've been able to do that without coming from that background.
Callum, were you similar to Eleanor in that you done something completely different and went into it?
Yes, I was completely different. Unlike Eleanor, I didn't go and have a degree or anything like that, didn't join the graduate scheme. So I actually recruited myself. So I worked in recruitment, supplying GXO at the time back in 2016, and there was a role available which I quite liked the look of. So I spoke to the boss there at the time and managed to secure myself a position. And I think, the beautiful thing about logistics for me is that the opportunities are truly endless. I think today's society, you're set up to go to school, to go to university, to study a subject, to find eventually employment in relation to that subject. That's a bold decision to make at 16, 18 and 21, to choose an education which is going to shape your life. When you haven't got that work experience, what I enjoy about logistics is the fact that you get opportunity to try and change different paths. You could start off in operations and you could end up in finance, or you could start in finance and end up in HR. As long as you're willing to learn and take those opportunities as they come, you can go down whatever direction you wish.
If down the line you decided a degree was what you wanted to do, would you be able to do that through your company?
Yeah, definitely. There's been people with GXO have actually got their degrees. So yes, I'm currently doing an apprenticeship, 18-month apprenticeship, where and that's all provided by GXO.
And why are you doing that?
Just to help develop my manager skill set, not only for myself, but to train my team. Big believer in mentoring and coaching the others, to try and give some of the same opportunities I've had. So it's about giving them and sharing my knowledge and my learnings through them as well.
So Eleanor, depending on which route you've taken, will you be given more or less opportunities?
I think it depends where you work and depends on your company. For Amazon, there is so many opportunities across every area of the business. So no matter whether you're coming as a level 1 employee and you want to work your way up, there's so much opportunity. So obviously my personal route was coming through the graduate side of things, which was fantastic to get that understanding and responsibility early on. But we have so many different opportunities. We have career choice, in which you can decide to study something completely different that might eventually lead to you leaving Amazon. But if it's the right thing for you, Amazon wants to support people in that. I think there's different opportunities. So I think Depending on the level will depend on the level of the opportunity. There's not necessarily less or more, it's just different level and a different scope. So coming in as an associate, you might have different time learning to be a team lead, work your way up to an area manager, etc. Whereas myself coming in, doing the operations manager role, there's different opportunities for me to move site or work in a different department. So I think there's always lots of different opportunities, and it doesn't matter what route you take, as long as you know you're passionate about logistics and that's what you want to go into.
And just to build on that somewhat, so I completely agree, but I also think that, you know, it's individual, so it depends on what your output is. So if you're fully embracive and you go there and you put, you know, heart in your sleeves and you work hard, then you'll get the results afterwards. There's also a level of maturity to it though too. You know, you need to have those honest and open conversations with your line manager to talk about what your direction you want to head towards. And ultimately that is the key to success, is being open and putting in the hard work as well.
Yeah, I completely agree on that. I think you need to be the champion of your own success. Yeah. If you drive that and you have those conversations, you can help support yourself to get those opportunities, because there's loads out there. You just need to challenge yourself and work with a mentor, with a peer to get to that level.
And talking about my experience with the company that I work for, not only is there entry for graduates, but a number of years ago we introduced an employee assistance program, which was basically looking at a route to further development and a route to progression for existing employees that don't come from a graduate background. And there's been some real successes in that area as well. And again, it's people coming through that may have been pigeonholed as you know, not someone that's got the right qualities to progress, but by going through that process actually demonstrate that they're more than capable of doing it, which is fantastic to see.
And Donald, we know there's a skills gap in the industry. Does having different routes close that gap a little bit?
Most definitely, yes, because you have to sort of spread yourself wide, you know, in those types of challenging scenarios. So when you look at skills gap, one area that I was directly involved in over the last year or so, of course, is the driver shortage. And through that, the government has assisted with various programs in relation to that. But what has really driven the closure of that gap is how companies have actually reacted, not only in the type of positions that they want to fill, but reducing the barriers to entry is probably the best way of explaining it. Making it easier for people that don't come from a logistics background to enter the industry. And the way that companies have done that is offering specific training to people to close that skills gap. And so the companies, you know, have done a really good job, I think, in resolving the issue, actually.
Logistics is a really broad kind of term, isn't it, for all the different things that you can do and what you can grow into and try within that sector. So do you think exposure is a big thing that stops people kind of going down this route, Eleanor?
I think a lot of it does come down to exposure. So things like today, for instance, we're actually talking about logistics. We're getting that awareness out there. As I said, for myself coming out of university, it wasn't something that I looked into or considered. But coming in, as Callum alluded to earlier, there's lots of different areas you can go into when you go into logistics. You've got operations, HR, finance, so many different areas. So I think spreading that awareness to people so they know there is those opportunities within that area, I think makes a massive difference. So the more awareness we can spread and do things like this, I think it will allow more people to come into logistics and understand what logistics is about.
Yeah, I think pre-COVID, you know, logistics weren't really heard of. It was only the impact of COVID that the outside exposure came in. Previously, it was very insular. Unless you worked in the industry, you were the only people who knew about it. Whereas, obviously, people in the pandemic logistics not operating to its full potential, and people were having an impact, you know, whether that be food shortages and whatnot, got the exposure, and now it's being talked about in these great conversations. You know, previously it was all, for the younger generation certainly, you know, it was a focus around sales roles, you know, and it's about showing the variety and the engaging things that you can do within the logistics industry as well, which hopefully we are all taking part in and trying to do.
Yeah, and I think you don't often hear about the amount of flexibility there is within logistics as well. It's a 24-hour business. There is so many different opportunities, so many different areas, and the time scale, the flexibility, everything that it gives you is massive. But completely agree, in terms of COVID, it made that massive difference, especially with Amazon and with other places. You do see a massive difference in people's ordering, changing of habits, and essentially without logistics, it wouldn't have worked.
Are there any myths that you've heard about your industry from people outside of it that you can dispel?
Well, I think pre-COVID, if you ask somebody what logistics is all about, they'll probably say, well, it's about driving a truck or driving a van, you know, and that's only part of it. It's such a wide spectrum, and therefore such a wide spectrum of jobs. Is it hard graft? Yes, it can be, actually. Is it fulfilling? Yes, most definitely. There was definitely a bit of a myth going round during the driver shortage that it could be quite low-paid positions within logistics. But I think over the last year or so, it's proven that you can have a worthwhile career in logistics, and you can earn a really good wage in doing that as well.
I think a lot of the myths around logistics, you think safety boots, high-vis jacket, you know, helmet on. Now, all of those do exist because we work in safety environments. So I work sometimes on the dock. I've got to have my safety boots on and my high-vis on. But the amount of people that you meet from diverse backgrounds, the amount of people that you work with who are just from completely different areas and walks of life, I think is just fantastic. You tend to look at logistics and just say it's the same sort of people, the same sort of age of people, the same sort of genders, that sort of stuff. So especially coming as a female, it often has been misrepresented that it might just be males within the industry. But it's showing actually there is such a diverse group of people, there's such a diverse culture, and trying to break that myth of it's just someone in safety boots and a high-vis. Because it is that, but it's so much more. And getting that awareness and sharing that with everyone will just have such a big impact.
What would you say to a young female who's thinking about logistics but has that kind of perception in their head?
I'd say go for it. I think we also need to make sure we're not holding ourselves back. There's always barriers and challenges no matter who you are, where you come from, what your background is. So don't look at the negatives, look at the positives. There is plenty of females out there in the logistics. One of my partners who works on the other shifts, she is a female as well. We have plenty within the industry, and I think it's doing, as I said, things like this where you share and show it's not just the same group of people. So definitely say to any woman out there who wants to go into logistics, go for it. There's plenty of opportunities, there's plenty of skills that you learn, and the best part for me is being around the people. And the people really make the job different. So if you enjoy engaging with people, building people up, giving them that management, giving them that support, logistics is definitely for you.
Donald, you mentioned pay there, and I wanted to ask if, depending on which route you go down, does that differ your pay? Say you're coming in as an apprenticeship or postgrad, how will that impact your pay level?
I suppose the impact is going to be your starting position, actually. No doubt most graduates coming in will be coming on to graduate development programs of some sort, and therefore are probably starting off on something that will be slightly higher than, say, an apprentice. But when you look at some of the apprenticeships that are out there, these are highly skilled positions, actually. And although the financial reward might be quite low at the beginning, as you start to build your skill and experience, your value within the industry will go up, and pay will naturally go up with that as well. It's such a diverse industry, actually. You can't kind of look at it as, well, there's a middle manager, so they will earn more than most people within the industry. It doesn't work like that at all. You will have drivers within certain industries because of the skill set and the highly regulated nature of what they do. Will be on a much higher rate of pay than drivers that are within other sectors of the industry. And so how you drive yourself and what you want to achieve will often determine where you're going to end up when it comes to pay.
Callum, as someone who's doing an apprenticeship at the moment, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, no, so in terms of, it really depends. In terms of pay, if you're doing an apprenticeship alongside your current job, you're not at no financial detriment. What I would say is, though, by being able to learn and have the ability to learn in your current role is really beneficial for yourself. We talked earlier about the different channels that you can go down and how you can help grow yourself. And I think that learning's continued, from every position in your journey. It's not just year one, you're learning, not just year two, 10 years down the line that you can still be learning and still developing your skill set as a leader.
Yeah, I think off the back of that as well, we talk about, apprenticeships, and we talk about kind of going in as a graduate. You go in at different points in your life. So in terms of the pay, there will be a difference. There is going to be a difference. But there's no reason why by that time and the opportunities as coming in as an apprentice that you won't be on the same salary, even more salary than a graduate coming in. And I think a lot of it comes down to, if the decision you're making is based on pay, that's the wrong decision to make. People learn in completely different ways. I was quite an academic, hence why I went to university. If you're a very practical learner and like to learn on the job, apprenticeships are the way to go. And as we said earlier, that doesn't stop your opportunities. It might impact your pay to start with, but you might be 17, 18 going in compared to a 21, 22, 23-year-old going in as a graduate. So work out your learning style, work out what works best for you, because that's the only way and that you can make sure that you end up in the field you want and in the time frame that you need. So pay is important, of course. It's important to everyone, but make sure you do what's right for you, and that's not the only decision you take into account.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think, it is so individual. We've got, 16, 17-year-olds who might not want to do further education for one reason or another. And that's not going to hinder them. I think whatever path you go down, be that an apprenticeship, an internship, a graduate scheme, direct employment, you're not going to be at no detriment. You're still going to learn. You're still going to have opportunity. And yes, it might be a different path. But if you want to go into a certain position, all paths will lead back to that direction.
So, what factors should be considered when you're choosing between a degree or an apprenticeship route? Callum, what did you consider?
Yeah, so I considered lifestyle. At the time, what direction did I want to go? I was currently in a job that I enjoyed, but did I see myself having a long-term career in it? Probably not. So when the opportunity came, because I was involved in the world of logistics, I understood the different channels and paths that we could eventually become. So I decided to take that blind leap of faith just to really develop myself, and I saw logistics as a opportunity to be able to go down a broad spectrum of roles. So if I tried one, almost try before you buy. If I tried a role in operations and I didn't enjoy it, our business is so vast that I can go elsewhere, and stay within a business and grow as an individual.
Eleanor, you mentioned earlier on that your degree didn't really have a direct connection to logistics. Is there a particular undergraduate degree that you think would align more?
I think definitely there's a couple that would. Anything regarding either business management, supply chain, logistics, transport. There's lots of different degrees out there that you can do that can get you into those roles. What I'd recommend to anyone if they know they want to go into logistics is start working backwards. Find the grad scheme, find the information that you want or where you want to go, and look at what are they asking for, what are the qualifications, what do I need for that, and then work backwards and go, okay, that's where I want to go, this is where I want to end up, this is what I need to do to get there. In terms of for myself, that's how I worked a little bit. So when I was kind of finishing my A-levels, I kind of wrote down what are my skills and also what do I enjoy. And if they pair up, great. Then I'd look at different opportunities that are out there, what fits my set of skills and what I enjoy. And from that, that's kind of led me to my degree and led me towards management, because I enjoy working with people. I enjoy supporting people and helping people to get the information that they need and supporting them with their own development and own career. So that was kind of the route that I decided to take, but there's no right or wrong answer. It's what's best for you. As I said, I decided to take graduate. Callum obviously decided to do apprenticeship. both of them equally valid opportunities to do, and we're both sat here today, similar positions, doing similar jobs, so I think that's just a key indicator of how you can go whatever route and end up in a similar sort of situation.
Give me 3 skills that you think someone should possess to work in logistics.
I think probably time management is a massive one, linked in with organisation, I think is a key skill. I think development of people, so being able to understand how people work, what support they need, and getting them to the right area. And then the third one is learning. Learn and be curious. One of Amazon's leadership principles, actually. You have to be driven to learn. No one goes into logistics knowing everything about logistics, unless maybe you spent years and years researching. I certainly didn't. Some people might do that out there. But having that ability to learn, to want to make change, to want to have that drive to show, actually, this is what I want to create or want to put into place. So I think definitely the ability to learn, time manage organisation and development of people. If you've got those 3, I'd definitely say logistics for you. Does anyone else have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think there's one key one, and I use this a lot for me and my teams, but it's adaptability. You know, there's situations in logistics where things might not necessarily be going to plan. You know, you go with a plan of attack, plan A, and that unfortunately doesn't work. A bit of the cog breaks. So it's about being adaptable in your approach and being quite creative as well. You know, thinking outside of the box to generate the best results you possibly can.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that is a massive one, adaptability. I'm sure all of us sat here have had many changes that have come in, many things that have ended up differently, and you just kind of have to throw everything at it and think on your feet. So yeah, really good one.
Donald, you mentioned that when you left school, you had no qualifications. If someone listening to this now is in that situation, what would you say to them?
Thinking back, and so, like I say, so I eventually went to university and got onto a graduate scheme. I knew nothing about apprenticeships back then, though. And what I have learned over the years, that school isn't for everyone. But that doesn't mean that your opportunities in life should necessarily be restricted. And so given over the last 5 years in particular, and the whole aspect of apprenticeships has really grown, I look at apprenticeship and graduate entries as equal routes, actually. And I actually view them as finally we've got, you know, additional routes into the industry that's going to aid, you know, other people that maybe found school difficult for no matter how many reasons, but there's still an opportunity for them to join an industry that is going to create opportunities for them. And so all I would say to anyone in that type of position is going to university and getting a degree is not the be-all and end-all, actually. And the apprenticeship programs that are available within logistics are going to provide the type of learning and the types of skills, knowledge and experience that individuals can grab hold of. They can learn a lot of the time at their own pace. They can learn whilst they're also earning some money. And it's a type of industry, actually, that is interested in people that are going to do a good job, actually. And so your background fades away, actually. And you don't have to have the polish, I suppose, that other industries actually look for. It's about what you can actually give. And that is going to determine how well you actually do in logistics. And so I would just say, you know, you go for it, actually, and let the past be the past and go forward.
As well, I think a lot of people think the traditional route is to go to university, but if you don't know what you're going to do or want to do, going to university and just choosing a degree, especially with the cost of degrees now as well, isn't the right decision for everyone. You need to look at, and if you go, actually, I have no idea what I want to do, if you look at apprenticeships, you have so many different options within that. Quite a lot of the ones I've seen, especially with Amazon and within other businesses, is when you go on to that apprenticeship, you get rotation. I don't know about yourself, but you get rotation about, you know, 4, 5, 6 different areas. So operations, logistics, finance, HR. So that would give you more experience and more understanding of, I enjoy that area, or I don't enjoy that area. Whereas if you go to university and come out of it 3 years later, say with a degree, you might still be in that same situation of, I don't know what I want to do. Hopefully you've got some idea after doing a 3-year course, but that's why there's the 2 options. You can go down so many different routes. It's just figuring out, if you don't know, try an apprenticeship. If you want to go to university, get a degree. Either way, there'll be opportunities in the logistics business for you.
And we talk about the flexibility within our industry. You know, certainly at GXO, with our graduates program, yes, you can come out straight from university and go onto it, but we also do an internal graduate program. It's exactly the same, but it's for colleagues who have been with our business for some time, and they can go on to that program without having a formal degree and still achieve that if that's what they want. And again, I think we go back to that individuality, and it is so individual to your circumstances of what you want and what career aspirations you have and how you want to get there, because again, no matter what path you take, ultimately you're still going to be successful as long as you put in the hard work and continue to reach and grow and take the opportunities as they come.
This rotation aspect that Eleanor mentioned, have you done that?
So that's part of our graduate program. So our graduate, we do 3 placements at 8 months, and they typically try and see transport, logistics, and then some other area, potentially HR. It depends really on what graduate program you're doing. But the beauty I've had within our business is I have naturally gravitated around roles. So I've had 4 or 5 different roles within our business, at different parts of our business as well. Experiencing a load of different, from transport, used to work, similar to yourself, we were having a conversation earlier, weren't we, in the fuel industry, working supplying fuel to a large petrol company, and now I work in recycling. So a real 360 of roles, and again, it just gives you that opportunity to understand how different elements of logistics and supply chain operate.
And the skills one role can give you can then lend themselves to another, is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of transferable skills, as well as some specialists, depending on what industry you work in, but largely, especially when you're in people management and the roles that we are, it's how you interact with your teams, how you engage, and all those skills are transferable, and you learn as you continue to rotate as well.
I think that's coming back to what Donald said earlier as well with regards to the soft skills. The soft skills are always the things that you look for in someone. In terms of the specific skills, you can learn as you go through, depending on what area. As you said, 8 months is a great amount of time to spend in 3 different areas and get that exposure and experience. And there's lots of things like that that are available.
We've spoken a lot about apprenticeships. We've also spoken about higher education. If someone doesn't want to do either of those routes, can they still work in the industry? Donald?
Absolutely. And I go back again to the type of soft skills, the ability to get on with people, a good work ethic, those types of things. Logistics is such a wide, spectrum. There's so many different types of jobs, so many different types of opportunity available. And I know I have a colleague of mine that was a tanker driver for years and decided, I actually want to try something different. And he then moved into the management side of things and has been managing fuels contracts within the company. And so it really does show that with the right drive, with a thirst for learning, putting in, the hours and putting in the hard work, you have the opportunity within the industry to be able to progress and do different things. And so there are opportunities to come into the industry, not being a graduate, not on an apprentice program, and you still have the opportunity to succeed. A lot of it, though, will come down to your own personal ambition and wanting to get on. But it is the type of industry that recognises talent. And talent comes in lots of different forms, actually. And there are lots of success stories within the Indian industries where people are progressed into very, very senior positions that started, for want of a better phrase, on the shop floor, actually, yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's lots of people within Amazon that I've seen who have just joined Amazon thinking, oh, I'm just going to join for a little bit of time and kind of see what happens. And I know people who've ended up there 6 years, now ops managers as well, and really enjoy the role. So I know we've kind of talked, as you said, a lot about kind of the graduate schemes and the apprenticeships, but there's so many other options. You can just see if logistics is for you. And as you said, if you've got that drive and you want to get there, you can. There's so many different opportunities, and because it's such a growing business and because we have so many opportunities, if you want it, you will get it. If you work hard for it and you put in that effort, the opportunities will come to you.
So, Callum, when it comes to choosing the best route for you, what resources does Generation Logistics offer to people?
Yeah, so you can look online and we've got some really good case studies about a variety of people in the industry and giving a bit of an insight about their roles, their route into the industry, a bit similar to what we've discussed today. And there was also the other one I forgot.
The Find the Future quiz as well. So you can kind of have a look into what do you want to do, and that can give you an insight into, do you want to go into HR, logistics, operations. So there's lots of tools out there, so I definitely recommend to anyone, check out the website, check out Generation Logistics, look at the different case studies, as Callum said, get that good understanding of how many people have come from different backgrounds, completely different diverse perspectives, and when you pull all of that together, hopefully that will tell you what logistics is. Use the Find the Future tool, and you can find out what's for you, really.
I think also what's really beneficial about that is even if you, okay, great, you've chosen, you want to go into logistics, you think it's a good industry, you can look at some of those case studies and understand a little bit about what their role looks like. So even if you're not sure what part of the industry, because the industry is so broad, right? We listed a few there, HR, health and safety, finance, just to name a few. You can understand and try and get a bit of an insight to what a day in the life of looks like there to make the best option for you.
I'd definitely say don't be afraid to reach out to people. Quite often we think, oh, I'm not sure who to reach out to. Research, have a look into things, and you might find there's someone out there that you can spend a day with or get to know what they do in their role or schedule a call or a FaceTime, whatever it is. I think there's lots of different opportunities. You just need to go out and have those conversations. And if you're not sure, start with Generation Logistics, have a look, and you'll find out.
Did any of you struggle when identifying the best route for yourselves?
Yeah, I wouldn't say struggled. At the time when I looked for the best route for myself, I just wasn't aware. At the time, I didn't, we used the phrase, fell into logistics. I didn't actively choose a role in it, but I'm glad that I did. Absolutely love the industry now. What I would say is it's about getting that clarity and getting the understanding so people can make that informed decision, because once they've done it, they'll probably stay with it for life. But it's sharing that exposure and that knowledge of what the industry actually involves.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I necessarily struggled, unsure, definitely, because there's so many different options, trying to narrow it down to one area and look and go, oh, well, if I go into that area, can I not then switch or go down a different path? But as I said, that's why logistics is such a good area to go into, because there are so many options. Once you go through that door, there's a million different things you can do, whether that's operational, supply chain, whether that is management, whether that's support, whether that's contract working, whatever that is, there is so many different options. So I think it's okay to not know. So often we think you've got to have a plan, what are you going to do? You don't need to know. All you need to do is take the time to research, take the time to find what you want to do, invest that time in yourself. And when you invest that time, hopefully you'll find something, and if not, give it a go. See if you like it.
I remember when I was looking at positions, 20 odd years ago, and even speaking to careers guidance, and I was talking about, I was thinking about logistics, and they didn't really know what it was all about. So I really do think that what we're all doing here with Generation Logistics is informing everyone that this is something that impacts everybody's everyday lives. Nothing moves without logistics. Logistics would have been involved just for us to be here today. And as an industry, it's kind of highlighting just how large it actually is. And I think organisations like Generation Logistics are really helping to get the word out there that logistics is not just about driving trucks or vans. It is absolutely vast, and it's a home for everybody, actually. And And I remember 20 years ago, that type of information wasn't there.
Now that we're all in our roles and we're happy and we're growing and we're developing, upon reflection, would you have taken a different route? Eleanor?
I don't think so, but that's because I like to live my life looking forward. So I think the decisions that I made got me to the place that I got to. So I wouldn't change the route that I went down because it was the right route for me. And when I look back, it's got me to where I am today, and it's given me the enjoyment that I've seen along the way. But my route isn't right for everyone. And I think that's the key message and the key takeaway is look at the different stories of other people, and you might say, okay, that's more suited to me, or that's my sort of style or how I would go about things. But for myself, I'm really happy with the route that I chose. And yes, my degree might not be the perfect for logistics, but it helped me to learn more about myself, more about how I want to manage, and more about how I want to support people.
Donald, Callum, do you feel the same?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's such an individual decision. There's no right or wrong answer. Ultimately, the decision is yours and yours alone. I think there's benefits and limitations to both, but by far, whatever journey you decide to take and whatever path, you can eventually get to the end destination, and whatever that end destination is ultimately your choice and what you want to do as a future career.
I mean, for me, I wouldn't change a thing, actually, because I think it's made me who I am, actually. And did I get it wrong at times? Oh, yes, actually. But you learn so much from that, actually. We were talking earlier on that there are times when things go wrong. This is logistics, it's transport, that sort of thing. Things go wrong quite a lot of the time, actually. And you learn from that, and you become more resilient from that as well. And so when I look back at my path, I wouldn't change anything about it.
I think that's fantastic as well to talk about. One of the things that we always say within Amazon is you're not learning if you're not making mistakes. You've got to make mistakes as you go through. Let's not hope they're too big or too catastrophic, but embrace those mistakes because that allows you to learn, that allows you to challenge. So I think, yeah, definitely, there's lots of opportunities there.
And to conclude the episode today, can we go round and all give me a sentence or an inspiring paragraph that you would say to a young person thinking about going into logistics? Callum?
Yeah, so my biggest bit of advice would be open, be honest, and be accountable. You'll get as much from your journey as you decide to put in. So embrace every challenge you get, embrace every learning that we said about, and just truly enjoy what you're doing, and then the rest will follow.
Eleanor?
Yeah, I'd definitely say do your research. That's the biggest thing. Look into different areas, look into logistics, and also look into other areas. I know we're here today to talk about logistics, but there's plenty other areas out there as well. But consider logistics. Do your research, understand, look at those stories, and once you start to gather that information, hopefully you'll make the decision that logistics is for you, given the amount of opportunities you can have to grow and develop.
And finally, Donald.
I think what I would say is that there is a role for everybody. And just don't be afraid to dip your toe in the water and give it a go, because it's going to surprise you at how much at times you will enjoy it. There'll be some times when you're pulling your hair out. But there's so many opportunities. If you're willing to give it a go, it's an industry where you can carve out a fantastic career for yourself if you're willing just to take that jump.
Well, Donald, Eleanor and Callum, thank you so much for sharing all of your experiences today. And thank you to you for joining us. Make sure you stay tuned for some more insightful episodes coming soon.